Hello, and welcome to Making Sales Social. Hey, Stan, how are you today?
Excellent. How you doing, Brent?
I'm good. I'm really excited about our topic today. I'm going to let you open it up, and I cannot wait to talk about not just this important topic, but how to actually leverage LinkedIn and AI for pre-call planning. So, why don't you launch us into this conversation?
Yes, so we decided to talk about this because LinkedIn and AI make such a perfect pair when it comes to so many different applications. And what we found is there's a lot of publicly available information that you can use AI to help you prepare more effectively for sales calls. So when you come into a sales conversation or discovery call or just a first conversation with someone, you want to have done your research in advance. It shows that you respect their time, that you know what you're doing, and it makes for a very productive conversation. So I look forward to jumping into, the combination of LinkedIn and AI to help us pre-call plan and set up better
I
calls.
love that. I am too. And, because, we're so famous for our acronyms, because we're so famous for them, we put together a little method that we're calling Label, Label, a method for pre call planning. And so we are going to start. I'm going to just kind of talk through each of them. And we are going to start with the first one, which is L. So I'm going to put this up. And L is the LinkedIn profile download. So, why is this important? Before we have any call with any prospect client, we want to know the background of the person that we're talking with. So, the first thing we want to do, and it could be multiple profiles if you're talking to multiple people, often we'll visit the profile and we'll scan it. But when we're using LinkedIn and AI, we can actually PDF each of their profiles. It's simple to download it as a PDF. You don't even have to be connected to them to do it. And ultimately, we're capturing everything that they've talked about that we on their profile that we may have missed if we were just scanning. And we'll get into how to use that a little bit more, but it's just such a great way to get started. So, do you want to add anything to that,
Uh,
Stan?
it's just a free, let's emphasize free. You don't need Sales Navigator for this. It's a free LinkedIn feature. You just go to their profile, the More tab on their profile, and you'll see Save to PDF. It's right there.
Love that. It is, right. And a lot of people say, well, I don't have a premium. Can I use that? It is available for everyone. What I love is there are a lot of things that we're limited to when we're not connected to them directly. This is not one of them. You could be a third degree or beyond and still have the opportunity to download their LinkedIn profile. So I love that. The second one we're going to talk about is A, analyze the priorities. So this is something that we typically don't do in preparation. And I'll tell you a perfect example. I was on a sales call with one of our partners, and it was a new person who just joined the organization. Because we knew we could go find her job description from their website. But you might be able to find her job description anywhere. But what that did is it allowed us to really analyze what are her responsibilities. So when we launched into conversation, we bridged everything to her job role. And so understanding and analyzing their priorities is really important. Now, what I will say is, sometimes you're not going to find that job description if someone's been there for a long time, but you can take their LinkedIn profile and use AI to say, based on everything you know about this job, what would his or her responsibilities be? And how can I bridge that, what we do with what she's looking or he's looking to achieve? And this is so important because, we have so many different buyers in the conversation, right? We've got buyers that are focused on the bottom line if they were the CFO. And let's call them stakeholders, right? Maybe the CFO cares way more about the investment than the user experience. And then you'll have the person who owns this decision, and they have a lot of other priorities and responsibilities. So analyze their priority is number 2. And there's lots of different ways to do that, especially with LinkedIn and AI. Stan, do you want to add anything to that?
Just that this is so important because you need to frame the conversation in terms of what's important to the people you're talking to and how it helps them personally achieve their objectives.
I love that. All right, we are going to go into B, which is build the ecosystem. So I already mentioned there are lots of different buyers, right? And if you have Sales Navigator, it's really simple to go in and buyer map and build out org charts inside of Sales Navigator. But even if you don't, if you know the titles of the typical people that are involved in the buyer's journey, you can build out those profiles, from and find them on LinkedIn. Now, you may not get all of them, but you might know, hey, these are the roles and the titles that are often in the conversation. And we really want to identify who they are by name. So there's a lot of different reasons why, and I love to build out the org chart and start by making an educated guess or assumption, right? We start knowing it's a guess, right? But building out who I think or who you think or who we think will be involved in that conversation. So there's lots of reasons we want to do that. We can also socially surround them. We can engage on their content prior to connection. We can follow them and they'll get a little notification. We may not connect with them yet until after our first conversation. But ultimately, in that first conversation, whether all of those buyers are in that meeting, and chances are they're not in the first one, often you're going to get the shopper, right? We can now say this, once we've had the conversation, we've done a little discovery, we've earned the right potentially for the next conversation. We can say, typically, these are the folks that would be looped in the next conversation. Here are their names. Curious, do you happen to have access to their calendars for us to get them involved? And maybe it's too soon. And they say, well, not yet. We're just going to bring one of them in for the next conversation. But you can also say, well, I appreciate that. Thanks so much. When I reach out to each of them, are you okay with me mentioning that we're in talks? Right. And so now we have given them the names. They know it's not just saying, so who's your CFO and who's the head of HR? We know who they are, right? We've mentioned their names. And we're not even asking permission to reach out. We're just asking permission to drop their name. And this can make all the difference in the world when we are socially surrounding everyone inside of that organization.
Yep, so true. And it's so powerful when you can mention people by name and ask, is Bren Tillman involved in this type of decision? As opposed to saying, in addition to yourself, who else would be involved in a decision like this? So doing the research in advance makes their life easier and makes you look much better.
I love that. And it's true, when you bring in that conversation, names versus just general, like, you're much more likely to get that engagement for sure. Our next one is E. E is equip AI with a really good prompt. Now, of course, if you've been listening to us, we use the Crispy prompt. Stan, Bob, and I have a book that we wrote on prompt writing made easy using the Crispy prompt. But a really good prepared prompt is going to make all the difference in the world. So a framework, right? So what is the context of this prompt when we're getting started? So it might be something like, I want to prepare a call by deeply understanding the people or person before speaking with them. That may be a simple context. We could go deeper as well. Would you add to that context, Stan? Or, I mean,
you might give them a little bit more, or them being the AI background, just in terms of the type of company, market, problems that they may be facing.
oh, so I love that. So we would go even deeper. So it would be a relatively customized prompt. I want to prepare for a call with this company, a specific company. Here's their LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, their website URL, or something even that deep. I love that. The next one for us is role, right? The crispy prompt is, what is the role of AI? So the role of AI, it could be act as a strategic sales preparation and research assistant. It could be that understands my company deeply, right? What else would you add to role for that?
Those are the biggest ones. We mentioned sales prep and research. So yeah, beyond that, there's not anything that I would add. The good news is that AI is getting so smart these days that it'll sometimes fill in the gaps better than we can.
So I love that. The next one is inspiration. And ultimately, like, this is, kind of, sometimes it's what you want the outcome to feel like, right? So I will say, like, conversations that feel completely informed and relevant and respectful of the other person's priorities, not overly discovery, salesy sounding, but more about curiosity. I want this to come across that I'm curious and I want to learn with the intention of helping or bringing value. Anything you want to add to inspiration? I think that's
Yeah, that's
pretty obvious. Yeah.
exactly.
Then we get into scope. And sometimes I think that scope could be the most important in today's world of everything we want this output to sound like, right? So you can in here just say, what the output I'm looking for, like a pre-call planning summary with a SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, likely competitors, their professional priorities and challenges, the solution they provide, the clients they serve, if possible to find, right? So topics they might care about, influencers they might follow, like all these questions that we want AI to go find. And then we could even say discovery questions. Now, we use the Chirp discovery framework that we've created, but you can list your discovery questions, right? So you can say, here are the 5 discovery questions that I typically ask. And so you could say, bridge these discovery questions to their priorities, right? And then really, really important, we can have build out scope, spend a lot of time, like, what am I looking to ultimately achieve, right? And this is where you can play. Then there's prohibitions. I have an enormous list of prohibitions that are in my typical instructions inside of AI, but some of it may be no assumptions beyond the profile on the website information, no salesy questions that don't lead to solutions. I might even say, in this particular call, kind of get away from budget authority, needs, and timing initially. Let's focus on challenge, the history of solving that challenge, the impact on the business, the risk of not making change, and if this is a priority, which is our chirp, right? So what to avoid. And then what are the questions that we wanted to ask us? And typically we'll say ask one at a time. The first question might be upload the PDF or PDFs of the people you're meeting with. Next question might be share the website. Another question might be any notes around how this meeting got set up, or so asking those questions will now lead us completely into the realm of gathering all the information and bridging what we've learned to what we can leverage on the call. All right, Stan, any last thoughts on that? I know that was a lot.
Yeah, but hopefully it was helpful. And so all this gives you information to conduct an effective conversation.
Yeah.
And after that, you're interjecting your own personality into the conversation, because you never know where it's going to go. Depending on how they answer, you may take a totally different tact, or you may read things in body language and this type of thing and tone that the AI can't help you with. That's where the humanity comes in.
I love that. I think that's so important that you're saying that, right? So we're going to get the bridge discovery questions, but don't go in cold and then just read them, right? Like take another 15 or 20 minutes and read through the notes, read through the discovery questions, and make sure that you understand the bridge and that you understand their positioning. So really, really strong. And the last L is leverage shared relationships for intel. Now, I'm going to say this could be in any other order, right? This could be, as we could have this be the very first thing we do even before we go into downloading. But before we get on a call, we want to leverage shared relationships. Who do we know that is connected to these folks on LinkedIn? So we already have a call scheduled, but getting on a call, and I'll say, hey, Stan, I see you know Bob Woods. I'm going to be on a call with him next week. I'm wondering, how well do you know him? And you're like, oh my God, we worked together for years. He's the greatest guy. You're going to love him. Then can I tell him you said hello? And now we get on a call, and in that initial kind of warm greeting, I'll say, oh, by the way, your name came up with Stan Robinson the other day. He says hello. And all of a sudden that call warms up. So that's how ultimately we are leveraging Label for pre-call planning. So any last thoughts around this, Stan, as we start to wrap up our pre-call planning with LinkedIn and AI session?
Nope, this has been great. So hopefully you've gotten some great takeaways as far as combining AI with LinkedIn. Again, the free LinkedIn.
Yeah, for all of this that we talked about today, you don't need any premium. If you like this and you have questions, come to one of our Be Our Guest to Coaching every third Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Bob, Stan, and I run our Be Our Guest to Coaching. Our next one is this Thursday. If you're live, if you're listening to this in a podcast, it's the next third Thursday of the month. But just go to socialsaleslink.com/events. You'll see all of our events. We also have we have free webinars that are coming up. We have challenge weeks that are $11 challenge weeks coming up. We have one today that starts on Sales Navigator list building today. But again, if you're on the podcast and listening, it's probably over. But check out socialsaleslink.com/events for all our upcoming events. Well, Stan, thanks so much for today. It was short and sweet, but I think it's productive.
Absolutely. Totally agreed.
All right, wonderful. So wherever you're listening to this, like, subscribe, comment, review, whatever that looks like for you, we appreciate it. And when you're out and about, don't forget to make your sales
social.
Ooh, that was a good one. Bye, guys.